Hello, everyone. It's Richard Boucher coming to you for our December NetBox community call. Hope everyone is doing great today. Um, so we've got a great agenda today, and let's kind of jump right into it. Maybe up front, I will indicate that, in the past few months, I've been kind of running these with Mark Coleman. Fortunately, Mark can't join us; he's a little under the weather, so I'll be running the show today. But I think we still have some great speakers, so let's kind of move on. The first thing, just quickly kind of go over the agenda for today. We'll be kind of recapping some of the upcoming events. There's some really exciting stuff coming, and that'll go over a little bit of NetBox news, and then the core of the show, which will be we have two guest speakers today. Dave Kempe, who's coming to us from an ungodly hour in Australia, with but some great stuff there, and Igor as well will be following that up. And so, two great speakers, great things to share, and then we'll wrap it up after that. So let's kind of talk quickly some of the upcoming events. So I'm not sure how many of you are familiar or aware of some of the announcements that NetBox Labs did during AutoCon 2, which was just a couple of weeks ago back in Denver. We released a blog. We had a press release around announcing a new set of products and capabilities that we are developing around NetBox Discovery and NetBox Assurance. And it's all about managing drift in your network. Essentially, how do you keep NetBox as a source of truth? How do you keep it pristine and up to date in terms of the latest data and information about the network, whether you're using it to document your network or whether you're using it to provide a model of your intended state to drive automation. Ultimately, there's always going to be a drift between the actual state of your network and what's in NetBox. And so how do you manage that? And so next week, there will be a webinar hosted by our own Rich Bibby, and Mark Coleman will be on that as well, kind of going into kind of the details of how we're going about to tackle that problem and what are the product features we're working on to help NetBox users with that. So I think it's going to be a really exciting webinar. So if you've got any kind of curiosity around NetBox Discovery and how do you get the data into NetBox and make sense of it all, I think this is a webinar that you won't want to miss. And for those who can't make it, either because understanding kind of the time of these and life is busy, it will be recorded and it will be available as a recording after the fact. So you won't miss out if you can't make it live. Another exciting webinar a little further out. This one is out in January, so this is a little over a month out. But this is some really exciting stuff that Rich Bibby and team have been working on with the Red Hat Ansible team around automation and Ansible and NetBox, particularly in the event-driven kind of framework. And so there's some really exciting stuff that has come out from a number of integration work, as well as working with some specific customers and partners that Rich is going to kind of share as part of that webinar. And I'll actually allude to it. There's another artifact that I should kind of pivot to mention and to kind of highlight is that a lot of these learnings have been actually encapsulated into an ebook. There's just so much content, so much context to it all. It was kind of best done in this form. There's some of it is kind of been pre-published as blog posts and other artifacts on our website. But we thought it was best to kind of collate it all together into something that's easier to consume. So there's now an ebook published on our website with a lot of the learnings and best practices around using Red Hat Ansible with NetBox. So again, if that's the type of automation stack that you're using or interested in considering, this is definitely a resource for you to look into. Moving on to NetBox news. Not much news from last month. I had kind of preempted the fact that that NetBox 4.2 was kind of on the in the oven and actively being worked on, and we were getting close to the 4.2 beta. Well, this month I can announce that the 4.2 beta is actually out and on schedule. It was earlier this month. At Again, there's a link here to all of the features. A lot of the highlights of the features that were, they came from the community, from customer requests or user requests from the community. But there was also a push on a set of service provider features that came from a service provider working group that was kind of run in late summer into early fall of this year. And a lot of the feedback that came out of that drove a lot of the product decisions, such as things like Q&Q tunneling and virtual circuits and VLAN translation. That being said, there's a lot of additional features in there as well, for all sorts of other use cases beyond the strictly service provider space. So the ask of me in this webinar or this call is to call out to anybody and everybody who's got an interest in NetBox and making NetBox better. Please help us out by testing it out, getting get it running in your lab or anywhere, and let us know of any issues you hit or any concerns you have and everything else. The more we test these betas before we go to GA, the better quality release we get when we get to GA. So being a community project, we kind of rely a lot on the community to help us out in terms of doing a lot of this active testing ahead of time. So if you want to go to the GitHub web a repository for NetBox, and you'll find in the documentation all of the necessary steps to set up an environment, including a beta environment. And if you struggle with that, or if there's any challenges with that, again, reach out to the community. The community is great about helping you out in getting you all set up. So if you can, please help out. Just so everybody knows, the 4.2 GA release is currently planned for January 6th or thereabouts. So the week when we come back into the new year is the currently scheduled 4.2 release date. Moving on, a little bit of kind of news ahead of time. It kind of connects to the drift component I was talking about earlier. And that is that we had announced NetBox Discovery, a product at AutoCon 2 a few weeks back, and we will be releasing that next week. So I wanted to give this group an advanced preview or advanced notice that that's coming. So we're going to be releasing it next week. The exact date next week has not kind of been pinned down, but sometime next week it will be released, and that is the NetBox Discovery Agent. And that agent has a few highlights that I wanted to make. For one, it kind of uses Nmap under the hood to do network discovery, IPv4, IPv6 network discovery to drive IPAM data into NetBox. It also uses Napalm to do device discovery, essentially pulling inventory and configuration information about devices, again, to populate DSIM and IPAM data in NetBox. It's going to be a fully open source agent, and it is fully extensible to kind of be developed over time to support other data sources. One of the ones that's commonly coming up in the community is SNMP support. As long as many as people have proclaimed that SNMP is dead, we still hear quite a bit of it. So that's a possibility of adding additional backends to do other types of protocols like SNMP. So be on the lookout. There'll be a blog post about it next week, and it will be available on the public repo. So that repo today is not public. So if you try to reach it, you will probably not be able to find it. But it will go public next week when we release this out to the community. So we're really excited about this. We really hope this will help move the community ahead in terms of as a first step in getting data into NetBox, and as well as keeping NetBox up to date, with the network as the network evolves. And I'll just kind of reiterate that next week there's also a webinar, I mentioned it earlier, about network drift. So this is definitely all aligned together, the same kind of topics and themes. So if you're interested in this and want to learn more, the webinar next week will be a great place to get started as well. So on that, let's kind of move on to the main topics today, which are our guest speakers. So we'll start with Dave, who's the founder at Sol One, who will be talking to us about dynamic runbooks and more with Bookstack and NetBox. So over to you, Dave.
Thanks, Richard. Fantastic. I'm really keen to find out about that NetBox Discovery Agent. Can't wait to work that out. We've just recently worked with one of our customers to build something using Thola, which is a Go SNMP daemon to do something similar. So really interested to kind of merge those two bodies of work together and make a contribution to NetBox Discovery and all get on the same page. So it's really fantastic to see, and I'm quite excited by that. So let me just share my screen here and see if this is going to work. Where are we? Yes, I'll need to take over, I guess. Let's see what's happened. How's that? You can see that okay?
Yep,
Should be
we
able
can
to
see
see
it.
some slides. Excellent. Wonder if I can resize that to be more sensible. Yeah, close enough. All right, so firstly, a little bit about ourselves. Wait, why isn't that changing? Okay, that's annoying. That isn't working the way I expected. So much for that. Let's have a look here. Slideshow. Presentation. No, that's not what I want. That's fine. I'll just share this. I have to share the whole window anyway for my demo, so I'll just share the whole window because that makes a bit more sense. All right, so Sol One has been supporting Linux and open source stuff for a long time. We're NetBox partner. I won't bore you with all the details. I think if you're at the last community call, you probably saw me again. But I did want to add one particular feature to that, and this is that our dev team has got a bunch of different skills, but in particular, and what drew us towards this Bookstack thing is that we're sort of Laravel experts, which is a PHP framework, and we've been doing PHP programming for a long time. So, this has led us to develop the integration between NetBox and Icinga, and that's something we maintain quite a lot, and that provides us with a monitoring and source of truth feedback loop. And what we wanted to develop today was a feedback loop between Bookstack, which is our documentation, and NetBox itself as well. So, many people, when they start to progress down the NetBox journey, they, kind of think, okay, great. Well, now we've got a structured way of managing our data, a structured database to put all our data in. And often what they had before previously for the structured data was Excel, and maybe a wiki. And so, the question becomes is, well, what happens to the wiki when we've got NetBox? Because now we have all the data we need, in a structured format, and we can interact with it with Ansible. We can power our monitoring with it. We can do all sorts of other stuff with it, and it's much more alive and more value added. But what about the why and the how? How did we get here? What do I say to new people? I can't just say to them, go read NetBox and get started and, ingest all that data into your brain. So this is where we need an actual piece of documentation. And that's where Bookstack comes in. So I'm going to flick around to just sort of give you a rough demo of Bookstack itself and how it works, because most people might not have been familiar with it. But, it is a full-featured wiki that has, it's a PHP Laravel application, fully open source, has a whole bunch of really cool features. I'm currently signed in using SSO, and it supports a bunch of different really useful features for network engineers and for general IT support. So, as an example, I can embed directly into my wiki page a diagram, and I can drag and drop items on here and, make a new little diagram and all that kind of stuff. It's got Draw.io support embedded straight in it. And then I can hit save, and that, is, right there in the wiki. This is our network. And so what, we got this far and we thought this is fantastic. We've got embedded diagrams, we've got shelves, books, a little bit of a weird analogy, but it works reasonably well to categorize, our business processes, how our data centers work, how our backup processes work, how our BCP planning works, cybersecurity policies, all those other kind of things. But all of that stuff refers to things in NetBox, and this creates the gap. So what we wanted to be able to do was to be able to have in Bookstack the data from NetBox sourced in real time every time you load the page, and not have to actually refer, and repeat ourselves. So we don't want to be able to re-enter data, IP addresses, host names, whatever data we might need. So we developed this integration, and it has a few really cool features. It's first, it has a settings page which lets you track, modify the settings. So this is the settings page, and we actually had to contribute upstream to Bookstack in the open source project to add this feature where you can have settings pages like this for third-party content and themes. And so this is how you configure it. I've added the demo details in here, and then it has a couple of other really cool features. First one is smart tables, and then you can add individual items, and it refreshes everything. So I'll just jump straight into how that works. So if we have a look here at our demo data, this is the demo NetBox. We've got all sorts of other stuff, and we rely on the tags, for example, in the demo NetBox. Now, this is the demo NetBox, so it could be that someone's messing with it and deleted all the data. And for example, yes, that's correct. The alpha tag has been deleted. Thank you, community people. So here we are. So we've got some sites. So let's have a look. Let's insert some data using our NetBox add-in. So you get a new thing on the toolbar here. We can insert a smart table. And I want to pick sites. And I can put in here, okay, Juliet as a site. And that will check that the tag exists and in the back end. And now what do I want to put in? Let's say I want to put in, I don't know, tenant, description, and physical address. And here we are, we have a table. So now we can, alongside that, put other useful data. This is the list of our sites by tenant for the project Juliet. And then when we save the page, it'll fetch the data from NetBox and render it for us. And then if we open, we can click on one of these things, it will open in NetBox, and I can edit the physical address, wherever that is, 1 Smith Street, Sydney, Australia. Actually, no, we should do 42 Wallaby Way. I think that was actually Mosman, but everyone gets the Finding Nemo reference. And so we've added a physical address here, and now I can refresh the page, and here is our address. So that's a really useful way of not having to repeat ourselves, of being able to refer to NetBox objects in a tabular format by tag, and then I can also do the same thing by individual sites. So this is the first site we have, and I can do this for any types of NetBox objects, as I showed you before. We'll pick an object type. We'll just pick a site because we know that's going to be there, and we'll pick object ID 1. And that should hopefully load. And here we are, we've got our headquarters in New York as the first site, and we can see what tags it has, Oscar, Quebec, Victor. So this is a useful way of being able to refer to any arbitrary NetBox object embedded in the table. We've made the Bookstack format a little bit larger, but overall, this is a great way of being able to take full advantage of the Bookstack technology and leave our data in NetBox and keep it up to date. So that's where we're at today. It works great. It's available to all SOL1 customers. We're a consulting company, and we welcome people to reach out, and we're happy to provide them with a sort of demo copy of this and kind of get started. If they're using Bookstack, obviously that's the first requirement, and happy to work through that. In terms of other things we might do in the future, we've got we're working on over the Christmas break a NetBox plugin. It's our summer in Australia, so it's kind of a party season, and we slow down a lot in January. But hopefully, some of our guys will be able to put some effort into a plugin. The other thing we're looking to pull in is diagrams from Bookstack, which would make it really cool back into the NetBox using that plugin, and then also be able to have Bookstack pages as a tab against a device or a list of back references. So you'll be able to go to a device and then look, see what things refer to that device, and perhaps even search Bookstack and show search results for, I've got a domain controller or whatever it might be, and here's a list of domain controllers. But then I go one of the domain controllers, I say, here's a list of wiki pages that list that out. So, that's something that we're working on right now, and we'll add as a feature. But overall, that's the demo. What do you reckon, Richard?
Awesome stuff, Dave. Maybe open up to the group. If I don't know if anybody has any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat. Just one quick question, Dave. I think that's really exciting stuff. Like, is it based on the kind of the core NetBox data model, and can it be extended like with plugin data models and things like that, or how does it behave, I guess, in the context of plugins?
Yeah, so it has it understands how to fetch API objects, and we've selected the API objects that you can select. So if you wanted to have a plugin, we probably would need to modify it to be able to understand how that works, because the API endpoints would be different because you can extend the API with plugins. So we haven't kind of supported any extra plugins at this point, but if you're interested in doing that, we would be happy to add the code. The immediate one that comes to mind would be the DNS plugin, but you could do BGP or whatever it might be. Then we just have to simply in the back end add extra code and go from there. We're perhaps considering open sourcing of this at some point. But it has been a fair amount of work to get to this point. It's been a bit of a sort of side project. We're keen to sort of get some sponsorship and work through that. And if a customer is keen to help us open source that, we're also open to that idea as well. But we do this for a living, and so we'll go where the commercial imperatives drive us, I guess, from that point of view.
Understood. So we got another question here around performance issues and refreshing all the data on every reload. Is that something you want to?
Well, yes, you can very you could easily smash NetBox pretty hard if you picked a tag that managed hit a lot of things. The idea, really just from a sort of workflow point of view, is that your documentation is only ever going to refer to a subset of all the devices. I mean, if you want to see all the devices, just go to NetBox. The idea is that we're talking about something that is smaller and some way of filtering things. So that's why we pick tags as a way of filtering, because we expect people will end up with, being able to tag a much smaller subset of devices from that point of view. So we haven't had any performance issues. The Laravel framework is very fast, I must say. Compared, for example, to some of the Python stuff that we've done, the performance has been fantastic, even against the demo device, which, that demo that you saw is my PHP, running in Australia, and the demo is running in, the US, and, even the load times even across the Pacific were, perfectly acceptable. When it runs on our local system with with a bit closer, it goes even much faster still. So, we're pretty happy with the performance at this point.
Cool. Thanks, Dave. That's all the questions we have in the chat. So I think
Great.
we'll wrap it up here and move on to our next guest speaker. So thanks again, Dave. That was awesome.
Thank you.
So give me a quick second here. So moving on to our next speaker. So Igor is going to be talking to us about UI plugin powered by Toposphere. So over to you, Igor.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Just a moment, I'll quickly share my screen. So I got something to talk about on the diagrams today. My name is Igor Korochenkov. I'm presenting today as an independent NetDevOps enthusiast. I have very extensive experience the enterprise domain since 2011. Unfortunately, many of my achievements remain under strict NDAs, but today I'm going to present you something that I've built in my free time and with my own resources, but just with, sorry, for the sake of compliance, I will highlight that I'll be sharing today everything that reflects my own personal work and views, and it's completely independent of my current or any past employers. So let's get started. This story begins in 2020, shortly before NetBox introduced support for custom plugins. I won the Cisco DevNet Hackathon with the use case related to network visualization. And I saw an opportunity to commit into NetBox, which I had enjoyed using for quite a while back then. And soon after, my own topology plugin was born. I called it NextBox UI. It's a blend of NetBox and Next UI Toolkit, which was a visualization engine powering the plugin at that point of time. The plugin gained some popularity in the NetBox community, and I'd like to take this opportunity and thank everyone for your support and endorsement. But over time, the development began to stagnate for various reasons. And one of the primary challenges that I faced is that Cisco deprecated Next UI Toolkit, which made any improvement potential for the plugin very unclear. So I started looking for some alternatives. And actually, there are not so many suitable options available even in 2024. First of all, you could use some general purpose visualization frameworks and change the icons to routers and switches. Generally, it works, but I would say this rabbit hole is much deeper than it seems. Generic tools fail to address very special needs of the network domain. And first of all, they are fundamentally incapable of producing any optimal layouts, especially for large and complex topologies. Here is some representation of Viz.js framework from their official page. It's nice, but there are lots of things missing. And the reason for this limitation is simple. Network hierarchy emerges not from the connection and any other graph properties, and instead it's driven by the network segmentation and some device roles, which generic graph algorithms are simply unaware of. So next option you could use is some network monitoring systems from the enterprise vendors. They're generally not so flexible and far not embeddable because they want to use it internally in their system. And lastly, you could use some specialized framework if it existed. And this all led me to a question. Can I develop my own network visualization framework from scratch? And after all this time, I can say that yes, I can. And the new plugin version that I recently published is now powered by my own Toposphere SDK. This is a brand new development written from scratch, entirely in JavaScript without any dependencies. And before we dive into the features, let's quickly take a look at how it works at a high level. The plugin was initially designed with a clear separation of concerns. There is a backend which handles all interactions with the NetBox data model. It calculates topology JSON and supplies it to the front end, which in the loaded page runs the middleware JS application, which in turn initializes the visualization engine and feeds the topology into the engine. And then the engine performs the magic locally in your browser. And toposphere is fully compatible with this approach. That's why the transition was quite straightforward. And let's now have a quick demo on the live installation. This is my local development NetBox, and to see the topology views, you have two options. First is located in the main menu in the topology viewer section, and it loads the empty network canvas, where you can apply a very powerful set of filters to pick up the sets of devices that you're interested in or not interested. And the next option is site topology. It's located directly on the site page. There is a topology button, and if you click on it, it will render the topology that is defined by the cables that you re-uploaded into your NetBox. This topology is fully interactive. You can zoom in, zoom out, pan. You can drag nodes to an arbitrary positions, and you can hover over link indicators and make them extended. If you want, you can do the same globally with interface switch. You can expand all or collapse all. On the right node click, you can see a small window with a summary of the data about the device. And you can quickly jump to the actual device page. Following this link. For the cables, it's the same. If you do a right click on the cable, it will show you either the cable representation with the link to a cable, or some multi-link connection, which will lead you to a cable trace for this given logical link. As you can see, there is some patch panel hidden in the topology. That's the default behavior of the plugin. And if you click to the header, you will jump to the primary topology viewer page with the filter applied based on the site where you were initially. You can do the same manually by loading an empty page and selecting the site you're interested in. It will calculate exactly the same view. You can apply additional filters. For example, you can add some additional sites, and it will render you the updated topology based on the data that you have in your backend. Unconnected devices are displayed by design and by default, but you have some plugin-specific filters allowing you to control these presentation preferences. For example, you can hide all unconnected devices or display some passive devices like patch panels. Let's apply the change. And here we are. R5 disappeared, and now we can see the patch panel. And potentially we have some cabling issue because we have incomplete cabling on the right side. So here there are two cables, and on the right side there's just one. The plugin, thanks to its new framework, allows some additional interaction methods. First of all, you can do the selection and drag nodes as a group. If you want to have a group, you can dynamically create one from the selection, and it will create a dynamic highlight of the group with some additional group controls. This polygon can also be used to drag the entire group all together. The group can be collapsed In this case, all links will be automatically recalculated, and the group will be replaced by a single node representation, which you can also move anywhere and interact with this as a regular node in the topology. And then you can extend it back and ungroup if you want. And last but not least, at any point of time, you can reapply layout algorithm, and you can export your current view into either image format or JSON for any further processing if you need one. Also, if you had some presets of common use filters, you can also use native save feature of NetBox. It will save you the presentation with all applied filters, including custom ones, and then you can quickly come back to a clear page and load this filter that will display you exactly the same picture as you've built before. So this is how it looks like.
This is really exciting stuff there, Igor. That must have been a significant amount of effort there to put all that together and build your own library for that.
Definitely was.
Yeah, I'm very impressed, Igor. You know, someone who we use Cytoscape for our NetBox Path plugin, you know, and we chose that for a particular reason, you know, which is a little bit different to the topology thing, but I know exactly how much work that is, and I can see how smooth you've got it going. So very impressive. You know, kudos to you, mate. Well done. Very impressed.
Thank you.
So is this currently available, Igor, as an open source plugin, or is this still to be released?
Plugin is available. It's published on my GitHub. Where is it? So that's a link. Oh. You can download it from the source code, or you can install it using pip install NetBox UI plugin. So the setup is very straightforward, just like with any other plugin.
Any dependency with specific NetBox versions or anything that
It currently supports NetBox 4 and not any pre 4 releases.
Very cool. I'll open up the floor again. I don't know if anybody's on the call has any questions. Please put them in the chat. I'm sure there's interest here. Actually, I really appreciate. I actually learned a lot on this because one of the concerns I've had in the past is, you know, topology viewers can become overwhelming. There's just often like in kind of like they're great to demo in these kinds of environments with these kind of small demo environments, but when you know, the rubber meets the road with larger customer deployments, it just becomes overwhelming. But I really love that feature of being able to collapse groups of devices into those lower, you know, those boxes. So you can definitely see building a complete hierarchy that's actually that you can actually navigate through and make sense of without being overwhelmed by having like you know, 100 icons on the same screen, which just is not kind of really practical in any sense. So I think this is some really exciting features.
Igor, I've got a question for you. Is this are we able to get to the JPEG and or PNG endpoints via URL or API? Does the plugin extend the API to allow you to do that?
No, that's a property of the front-end framework.
I see. Yeah, okay. Yeah, it would require you to sort of render that, I guess, and display it. But that would be pretty handy to be able to sort of embed or fetch that, just to tie back to what we were talking about with the book stack idea that we were working through, being able to, programmatically get the topology viewer and even maybe send it as a monitoring alert or, whatever else it might be would be pretty cool.
Yeah, you
some
can
of the
potentially have
concepts.
some automation around it. And since it's pure JS, not sure if you can run it on Node.js, but at least you have some options. Not straightforward, maybe not so beautiful,
That's
but
great.
still.
So we actually have a question from Oleg here. Can a customized layout groupings be saved, or do they need to be manipulated on every load?
So groups will not be saved at the moment. For customized layout, I have this in my plans. So they do not remember the exact location where you put them, but the plugin reapplies the same layout algorithm every time you load the topology. So if you don't move the nodes, it will look exactly the same. If you move them for now, it will return them into the calculated place. But technically, yes, it's possible from the SDK perspective. I'm planning to implement this.
Cool. Thanks, Igor. Any other questions from anyone? Well, this is exciting stuff. Thanks, Igor and Dave. I think we'll go back to wrap up our call. This up. So again, thank you to our speakers today. These were two great topics and kind of related in terms of visualization and documentation of the network based on NetBox. And but I'm sure there are plenty of other stories out there that we'd love to hear. So anybody out there who's interested in sharing your story, whether it's on a webinar or a community call like this one, or in other forms, whether it's a blog or some other mechanism. We'd love to hear your story. We'd love to hear how you use NetBox or how you've extended it, or other tool sets that you've built on the side to build out your network automation stack. We'd love to hear about it, and I'm sure there's plenty of community members who'd love to hear about it as well. So feel free. If you've got an interesting story, reach out, and we'd love to have you present it or discuss it or share it as it makes sense with the rest of the NetBox community. And we'd love to be there for you in helping you do that. See, there's some questions. Okay, Dave, you're responding to them in the chat. Thanks. So on that note, I think I wanted to also mention that the next call will be on Tuesday, January 14th. The sign up page is already available. So for those that are interested in doing that, we have already some really great presenters lined up for that, and so you won't want to miss it. So there'll be some AI components next month. So really exciting and innovative use cases to be presented in our January sign up webinar, community call. So on that note, I'll kind of leave it open for a last set of questions. Please, anything in the chat, anything that anybody wants to bring up. Again, thank you again to Dave and Igor. Any last words from either one of you?
I just wanted to address a question Brian had about method of procedure documentation. This is exactly the kind of use case that we're talking about, because the subset of things about, let's say, how do we patch our domain controllers, or how do we do our DR, or all those other kind of things does require structured data, but is associated with also human readable documentation. So that's what we're trying to achieve with this, and happy to work with anyone. I'll put some of my contact details in the chat there if you'd like to reach out, and happy to work through it all. I think you'll find us pretty easy to work with, and we've been doing this for a while, so happy to do that. There's a couple of other questions here about NetBox branching. Richard, I could possibly field that just from our perspective, as well as a sort of NetBox partner. We definitely believe that the branching plugin as it is ready for production use in our opinion. There isn't, I haven't come across any particular crazy bugs or anything like that. I don't think it's going to eat your data. It relies on some solid back-end Postgres technology to make that happen. So you can go for it, in my opinion. But Richard probably has a different view. So what do you think, Richard, about the branching plugin to date?
No, I agree. And we definitely need, to be honest, more feedback from the community on how it's working out. We've had a number of people use it and test it out, and but it's all, the more feedback we get, particularly on the next features that we want to build on top of that, because we're not done with it, the better. And so I would strongly encourage everyone to start testing it out, using it. I think it is ready for production use, as Dave mentioned. It won't eat your data, and then let us know, like, where do you want us to go from here. So that's what I'd say about branching. And then there's a final question on the UI plugin. Can it be used in Docker? And I guess that's more of a general plugin question with NetBox Docker. But I don't know, Igor, if you want to address that one directly
It
yourself.
definitely can. So the installation I just showed you was Docker based. I developed myself in Docker.
Yep, cool. Thanks, Igor. So Jocko, hopefully that answers your question. So I'll just stall for a quick second in case there's any other follow-up questions from the answers we just provided. But if not, we'll wrap up in a few minutes. And again, so just to kind of, as we're seeing if anything else come out, again, a big thank you to Dave and Igor. This was awesome, and great work. And looking forward to the next things you guys are going to come out with. I'm sure this is not the end of it. So on that note, I think we're going to wrap it up. Thanks, everyone. Have a great December, whether it's winter for you or summer, depending on where you live. It's the holiday season coming up, and I wish everyone a merry holiday
Richard,
season. Yep.
can I flag another thing? Coming out of AutoCon, we had a discussion around network automation. There's a packet pushes episode coming up shortly around that, which I thought was a great roundtable kind of community discussion. And some of the topics that came up here around network automation and the use of NetBoxes is coming out. It's coming out in a couple of days' time on the packet pushes network, and I really think it'd be a great thing for this community to kind of look at and see where we're at. So it sort of follows up on a bunch of the bits about closing the loop of documentation and the role of NetBox in a source of truth. And it was a great debate amongst four sort of, industry members that I think the community could really benefit from. So just a little plug there for the packet pushers thing to check it out. A great friend
Cool.
of NetBox Labs.
Yeah. Thanks, Dave. No, that's a great plug. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, excellent. Great. Thanks,
Cool.
guys.
On that, thanks, everyone. Talk to you next
Thank
time.
you. See you later.
Bye-bye.